canceled show becomes a major motion picture. It's never happened before.
A wonderful working experience becomes a wonderful fan experience. Doing things that other people like you are going to appreciate and understand and talk about and write about and make documentaries about. It's awesome.
Curtain call for the story of our big damn heroes.
We're a canceled television show. Everybody thinks we're gone. All of a sudden this fan base just keeps growing and growing and growing. And then we make a movie. And then we're a huge movie and we make sequel after sequel. That would be amazing. What a great story to be able to tell.
And no power in the verse can stop us now. Brown coats have done the impossible. Welcome to Serenity.
Hi, I'm Adam Baldwin. I played Jane Cobb on TV's Firefly and in the big damn movie based on it, Serenity. We've done the impossible, and that makes us mighty. These words, written by Joss Whedon and spoken by his hero, Malcolm Reynolds, were about struggles against overwhelming odds. They become a rallying cry for millions of Firefly fans worldwide. This is the story of Firefly and Serenity and how Joss broke the rules of TV and then with the help of his fans, went on to break the rules of Hollywood and to do the impossible. This is our story, the story of the fans of Firefly.
My name is Natalie Ashton.
My name is Ilona, otherwise known as Nono Luna.
My name's Jen. I'm from Melbourne, Australia.
My name is Amy Wilson.
Joshua Harrison.
My name is Francine.
My name is James.
This is Jewel Staite.
I'm Michelle Cullen-Benz.
Danielle Tardif.
My name is Nathan Town.
Kelly Wilcox. Julianne Hensley.
Jan Feldman.
My name is Chris. I'm from North Carolina.
Andy and Andrew.
I'm Adam Baldwin.
Jeff Kahn.
Shauna Terpsik. Sue Reganini.
Michelle Evans.
Hawk. And Cedric. Psychic Experience.
My name's Karen.
Stephen Jacob.
It's Missy Petrowski.
Marina Baccarin.
That is not my name.
Morena Baccarin.
Thank you.
My name's Brett Matthews. Send me a wave.
Margaret Weis. I'm from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
I'm John Cassidy.
My name's Jerry James.
Carlos Cartagena.
Melissa Honig.
I'm Miu.
My name is Nikolai Narowski. I'm from San Diego, born and raised.
James Dornoff.
Josh Autry.
I'm her husband.
Scott McAlpine.
Tony Grant.
Angela DeHaan.
And I'm Fanti. I'm the pretty one in the movie.
Hannah Castillo. Kimberly Pudliner.
Firefly Gal.
Mike Boritz.
Bob Marnick.
It's Ann Rousey.
My name is Ron Glass.
I'm Saxon Online, and this is Lily Ewok.
I could have said my own name.
Well, I introduced you.
Little Ewok, please. Thank you.
Betsy Johnson.
Jason Palmer.
Rosie Leon. There's a lot of you guys.
Kevin Batchelder.
JP Bernardo.
Kathy Salmon.
Ariel
James
Castrata.
Egan. Jeff Kleiss.
Kathleen Hanover.
This is Nathan Fillion.
Juliette Vlada.
And Becky.
Sarah Lukanoff.
Michael Garner.
Elena Palmer.
Carson Petror.
Keith R.A. DeCandido.
Cheryl Black.
The lovely and talented Mr. Helen Tudyk.
Carrie Haley.
Amy L33.
And I'm Eric.
My name is Jeff.
Aaron Gray.
11th hour.
Christy Black.
And I'm Joanne Gray.
Conrad Frank.
Jeremy Wan.
Tim Minear.
My name is Leslie.
Andy Sullivan.
Amy Schaefer.
Michael O'Connell.
This is my son Justin.
I'm Orson Scott Card.
I'm Christina Hendricks, and I'm a Firefly
I'm a
fan.
huge brown coat.
We're
with
fans.
4 geese.
I've been a big fan of the show.
I'm a big fan.
I am a huge
So
fan.
I truly am a fan.
I really love
I've been
Firefly.
a fan of the series since the beginning.
I am a fan of Firefly. I'm Brian Weiser. I think Serenity is awesome. I love Firefly, and I love being a brown coat.
A lot of things interest me, but none more than science fiction, and I just wanted to see something on TV that was very character-driven, very gritty, very you are there. Science fiction was getting more and more distant and pristine, and it was starting to lose me, at least on television, and so I thought I'd like to take something that is just shows how hard things are, were, and will be. I basically wanted to tell the pioneer story as it would apply to people who were in the blackness of space.
It started out, I was flipping through the fall preview and TV guide like I do every year to see which shows I'm interested in watching.
We grab the TV guide when it comes out each year and look for the new shows. And I've always kind of been a space nut.
The very first moment that I saw a commercial for Firefly on Fox, I knew it was special, and I could not wait for it to start.
They said Joss Whedon, and I'm like, I'm watching it.
I remember seeing a press release, and I was at a paper on the East Coast, and it was announcing some shows in development for Fox. One of them was something called Firefly, and being a big science fiction geek,
I instantly snagged the press release.
I remember seeing the ads for it, and I was like, oh, cool, an Adam Baldwin show, great, you know?
My husband actually told me Joss Whedon has a new show coming out called Firefly. And guess what? It takes place in space, which really excited him.
Wow, I wonder if it'll be good. And so I made sure to watch it every time I could, and I had that experience everybody's had where they said, did I miss something? What's going on? I'm going to buy the DVD of this if they bring it out so I can see them all in order.
And I was a little confused because, Fox all the commercials for it were for this, for the pilot, the Serenity pilot.
I distinctly remember the promo of River being in the frozen cryogenic case.
And I caught the first episode, and it was a train job. And I'm sitting there wondering, where's this girl in the box? Where's all this stuff that's supposed to happen?
I'm not following it. I know I'm missing something, which I know that had to frustrate Joss and Tim.
The train job was interesting. Joss had made this brilliant 2-hour pilot called Serenity that the network didn't feel was as brilliant as we did.
And annoyed, especially when I actually saw the pilot and was wondering, why the hell didn't they air that first?
Our theory was, and we were probably in denial, was that we would write this first script, then we would not fight with the powers that be. We would make this episode, but we would continually try to address whatever notes they had about the 2-hour pilot. And Joss actually, the first thing he did when we went into production was he went out and he shot new material for Serenity, which addressed every single note that the network had. He changed the opening, he excised some material, he added some jokes, he, just peppered in stuff that absolutely addressed every single note that they had, because our hope was that before the fall season began, we could convince them that this was the thing they should start with. So that was always our plan, always our hope, and in the end, they didn't see it that way.
When I heard that Joss Whedon was going to do another series, I was totally on board, and I tuned in from the very beginning, Firefly, and I loved it from the moment Mal kicked a guy in the engine.
I missed the first one, so I caught the second one, Bushwhacked, and I was totally intrigued because the two characters the one character that seemed the most moral to me, which was Simon, I found out he was a fugitive. I'm like, okay, how come he's the fugitive?
Which brought me into Bushwhacked the next week, not having a clue, but I was still hooked. It didn't matter.
It's like just so original.
No aliens. No aliens.
Yeah, it's like
I'm sick of aliens.
It's just so cool.
He shoots people in the face. Pretty good.
And he kicks them into engines. And there's like cool blowing up stuff.
The episode was Janestown, and I just fell in love.
Became a fan as soon as Mal kicked Crow into the engine. Mal whacked Jane with the wrench. There was something about that. I'm like, why am I not taping this? I need to be taping these episodes so I can see them again.
I saw the first minute when they were playing Chinese checkers in the bar, and it was over. I was hooked, done. Then the rest of the lines just cemented it. Got to the chain of command, knew I would never miss another episode.
By all indications, Firefly should have been a great success. A terrific story, sophisticated and brilliant actors, and it was being shown on a major network. Most importantly, it had the talent of Joss Whedon behind it. But before the first episode aired, it was dealt what was quite possibly a fatal blow. The network decided that the pilot episode, which properly introduced the verse and its characters, wouldn't be the first episode to air.
I was adoring this show, loving the characters, loving where it was going, a little confused at times because it didn't seem to follow, but I didn't realize that they were being shown out of order at that point.
And then the show disappeared. So I was like, what happened? Oh, internet, I'll go find out.
So I went online, and then I think I found the OB and started talking with those people.
The fans early on understood that we were under the gun.
In November, when it looked like the show could be in trouble, the fans organized through the message boards, and we created the Firefly Immediate Assistance Program.
At that point, I started to see the fans band together, and they started putting together sites and creating their own write-in campaigns and doing what they could to head off what appeared to be inevitable.
So we're shooting the scene where Jonathan Woodward comes onto the bridge with a gun. And while we're shooting the scene where Jonathan Woodward is on the bridge with a gun, Josh showed up onto the bridge with a different kind of gun and pulled me to the side and says they've pulled the plug. They've done it. They've canceled the show.
And then they canceled it.
That's when I just found it. I said, what happened? Where'd it go?
It just sort of went by like, wait, there was some show that was coming that I wanted to see, and then the next thing you know, it's gone.
It was really depressing for all of us when it went under.
I was seriously bummed.
Right about the time that I started to get, addicted to it, it was gone.
As I try to rationalize these sort of things, people these days seem to work a long time. We have a 10-hour day at work. We work together. We have an hour commute in, an hour commute out. We have a half-hour lunch inside. We try to sleep 8 hours. That never happens. You come home and you do supper, you take care of homework with children, and then all of a sudden you find yourself with an hour or two of time to look, at some TV and get some entertainment and let go of the day. And we choose that time carefully. So it was a big loss to us, entertainment-wise, when we heard it was going to be canceled.
I mean, once you start, you treat it like a feature film. You don't want to stop, you don't want any breaks, you just want to watch everything. And when you reach the end, as you realize they're getting set up for something wonderful, and then it stops, you want to find somebody at the network and kill them.
I know the network was loaded down with those things, with mail and email. And I know that in some meetings, someone had to say, listen, this is not just a show that people don't care about. They care desperately. For whatever reason, they just went a different way.
Oh man, when they canceled the show, I felt great. Oh wait, no, the other thing. It was a gut punch. I just couldn't accept it. I wouldn't accept it. Clearly, I'm surrounded by other people who didn't accept it. That's what this is all about, the fact that none of us were going to put up with that nonsense.
So I'm directing, and I have my crew there, and I think practically every member of the cast was there that day. And Joss asks me, should we tell them now or should we wait until we wrap? Because we knew that if we lowered the boom at that moment, that we probably wouldn't get a lot more shooting done. But frankly, I didn't feel like doing a lot more work at that point. And I said, I think we have to tell them.
He poked his head into the bridge. I need to talk to everybody. And it was one of those kind of like, oh man, we just knew what it was because we've been beaten up for the last weeks and months, and frustrated just like anybody who liked the show that it wasn't on every week. It was on every third. I mean, it was just the most insane non-chance of a TV show, and we all liked it so much. And we were all fighting this evil Empire Alliance on the TV show that Fox immediately became. And then it was like we'd lost to the Alliance. It was like,
the metaphor was too sweet to ignore. But they kicked us down, and then they kicked us while we were down.
Yeah.
I was in my trailer doing homework with my daughter, and Joss apparently had wandered onto the set and said, I have some news. So I got a frantic knock on the door from the assistant director. Said, you better get up to the set. We've been canceled.
We were at work, and Joss called everybody in, said, need to have a talk. And he just let us know that it was canceled. And it was it was very emotional.
When you write the way Joss wrote, with an absolute clear definition from character to character, anybody could pick 2 or 3 out and relate to them.
He gets emotional about it. It's, it was awful.
I think the hardest part during that moment was realizing that the family was breaking up.
I was on set that day, and he brought a group of us together, and yeah, just sort of broke the news to everybody. And we stopped working that day and went to Nathan's and
got drunk.
Got drunk, pretty much.
Except for me, because I don't drink. But everyone went off and drowned their sorrows.
Reminisced, told war stories. Remember that time today when we had the show still?
Right around lunch. That was a good time.
Right before 5:30. Right before 5:30. Yeah. That was a tough day. I don't mind saying it. I was really, really happy doing Firefly.
And I remember the next day, there's a scene in that episode where Mal and Inara and Zoe are sitting around the table in the dining area, and they're telling stories about this dead kid. Funny stories. And they're supposed to be laughing uproariously. And that was actually the first scene that we shot after getting word that the show was canceled. So everyone sort of showed up on the set that day, very depressed, very gloomy, feeling as if someone in fact had died. And those three actors sat there and started laughing hysterically.
So when it was taken away, let's talk about something else. You're gonna have to cut the camera off when he starts crying. I can't keep doing that. Wow. He's gonna be in the bathroom.
Anyway, Joss goes to his office and I run in there and I say, so what's the deal? He says, we're canceled. But he was already on the phone with the network saying, I want the show. Please let me have the show. I want to try to sell it somewhere else.
I talked to the president of the network, and all I said was, will you let me take it somewhere else? She said yes. That was our entire conversation. I believe it was our last. And they did very graciously let me take it somewhere else. And so, you know, it did not die, but it was close.
I love these characters, I love these actors. What are we going to do? And we kind of laid out all the networks, the cable stations. We talked about, you know, direct to DVD, mini-series, a brief discussion of sock puppet theater, which has been widely reported. And we just kind of went out and started pounding away and trying to figure out what would happen and how we could keep it moving forward.
The loyalty and the dedication of the fans is unlike anything I think anybody's ever seen. I mean, we all knew that Joss had an incredibly avid fan base, and that Firefly did as well, but it started really with all these letters that I would get.
First we had they announced the hiatus, and that was awful because we all know that that's the prelude to cancellation, but the night I found out that it was canceled was the night they showed Serenity, the pilot. And I found out about it like 5 or 10 minutes before the show started. And then Serenity runs, and the very last scene, Mal is sitting there, and he's talking to Simon, and he says he has a good day, and Simon's like, well, all these bad things happened. And he says, we're still flying. And I just bawled because we weren't.
We've all heard the phrase, it's just a TV show. Many people who haven't seen Firefly don't understand what the fans are so passionate about.
Joss, the man they call Joss. He wrote about spaceships and shepherds and horses, put up to the networks and gave them what for. Box canceled his program, but that was their loss. The creator of Firefly, the man they call Joss. Now Joss saw the viewers' heart breaking. He heard the browncoats lament. He saw Fox management taken his show in a way that made no sense. He said, you can't do that to my program. Can't grind it under your heel. So he took all his cast and, well, now at last they've landed a big damn movie deal. He wrote about spaceships and shepherds and hordes, stood up to the networks and gave them what for. Fox canceled his program, but that was their loss. The creator of Firefly,
What's up?
What we were going to do with our hands just now.
Now here is what separates Firefly from other shows you're likely to see. It's meaningful and witty, and the setting's really gritty, and the theme song's about Serenity. It's a little like a Western, yeah! It's a little like X-Files. It's better than Trek, and it's funnier than Shrek, and it beats out Andromeda by miles. He wrote about spaceships and shepherds and hordes, stood up to the networks and gave them what for. Fox canceled his program, but that was their loss. The creator of Firefly, the man they call Joss. Dongma.
Unsure of what needed to be done next, the fans tried many things to bring Firefly back. And so, the browncoat movement began.
The Firefly fans put their money and their time and their support out there and extended it in a way beyond clicking on a yes button.
We wrote to the networks, we wrote to all of the advertisers, and we started gathering money for an ad in Variety magazine.
I signed the petition online, and that's how I became involved with the Browncoats.
I jumped on the bandwagon with everybody immediately. I was doing the postcards, we were writing the letters.
I think it also for us was maybe a lightning rod for our frustration with television and pretty much, pop culture in general, kind of appealing to the lowest common denominator. And it was kind of like, oh, it's a television show, you let it go. Whatever it is that's gotten canceled or whatever it is that you might have loved that I feel like if I love it, it's gonna get canceled, And so it was like, no, this was the one place at which to take a stand.
I couldn't believe it. And the show that they replaced Firefly with, it was a teenage, which by the way didn't last very long either.
No.
It's interesting. It's like if you look at the show, and if you look at who the people on Serenity are, there's sort of a bunch of losers who don't have a spit's chance in hell. Well, those are the Firefly fans.
Well, I remember the night that I found out that the show had been canceled. And you know how we went on the boards and there were all these trolls trolling around? Yes. I found out through a troll. It's like, thank God that show is canceled. It was about time. I'm like, no, this is just a troll. And it was for real. The show had been canceled. I got so depressed that day. I mean, my friend, this guy I know, it was like, for God's sakes, it's just the show, because he was involved, but not as much as I was. I'm like, no, it's not just the show. This is like a TV phenomenon. Thank you.
Kidding.
So we got together, it was great, and we watched it together, and it was also strange, all women, and it was science fiction. And we're like, and it's all women, isn't this cool? This is great.
That's one of Joss's main strengths, is that he can write things that appeal to women and to men.
What we have is pure storytelling. The kind of thing that our ancient ancestors would gather around the fire to hear some old man or young man tell stories, or actually, the fairy tales, folk tales were the stories of women that they would tell the children to frighten them half to death and get them to go to bed, I suppose. But that's the kind of storytelling that's going on here, is storytelling done to captivate an audience, to make them feel like something terribly important is happening in the world around them.
I think that the people that stayed faithful and stayed positive that we were going to return are just pinching themselves that they're rewarded with this.
Thank God for Chris Buchanan and Adam Baldwin, who hinted that Joss was not giving up and to not lose faith. And when they said it, I didn't, because I knew it was too good.
My staff and my crew and my cast, we were heartbroken. And the fact that we saw that kind of support meant that, even though we might have ended it there, we had been heard, by people who took us very, very seriously. And ultimately, that matters more than how long you get to live with something.
Okay, so the show had been canceled, the sets had been torn down, and attempts to sell Firefly to other networks had failed. By now, the fans of ordinary TV series would have moved on, punks. But instead, the Firefly community grew stronger. The words Firefly and Browncoat came to symbolize a sense of community and family, and a conviction that the impossible can be accomplished. These concepts are at the very heart of Firefly and its fans.
Browncoats, it's not just a cute name because that's what they called people on the show. That's who we are. We're the people who lost, and we're the people who were brothers in arms when the cancellation came down.
And we just keep finding each other, and we find people that we can still appreciate and understand, and that we're all sort of on the same page.
The fans of Firefly are in fact sort of these characters on the ship.
I love the fans. I love the fans. For me, a browncoat, as I said, is someone that's really smart.
Yeah, the browncoats are pretty much the best fan base in the whole world.
I stumbled across a message board that Fox had set up, and
That's where I met all these wonderful browncoats and discovered the community and realized that there was still hope.
You meet with browncoats, and most of the time you just know their screen name. So you walk around calling people things like Cave Witch and Pip and 11th.
That's also where I met Soonardax.
You always wonder what people like sitting behind you think when you're like, hey, Fly. Why is they're calling her Fly?
I was never really an internet person for fan groups before this, but they were just so nice, and I had such a ball online that I just needed to meet them in person, and they are as wonderful in person as they are online.
This whole experience has changed my life. You know, people don't believe me when I say it, but I'm actually very shy, but because of this, I've come out of my shell more than I had ever been before.
And so that's why I think so many of us feel a bond to each other in terms of Serenity, because we all feel like we're part of a great family.
When you meet a browncoat for the first time, they don't shake hands, they hug you right away, and it's like a family, and you feel that from the actors too.
I was intrigued by the level of intellect with the fan base, and the online message boards are a very convenient way of communicating.
We're on the boards and everybody's screen name, but we don't really have anybody else in our lives who's into it. So other than being on the boards, that's it. So coming down and meeting everyone, it's like getting together with family that you've never met before.
I came from primarily Klingon fandom before. That was my big thing, and that's where I met my husband, most of the people who are my best friends, but a lot of them are now browncoats. So many people welcomed me so nicely. I've now got tons of friends. I'm actually doing my entire 4 months in the US staying with browncoats. I think we were driven by just this love of something that was so good and that we didn't want to see die. And it was such a strong desire that I think it really just bonded us together. And it made us powerful, made us mighty.
Opening up their homes to other people and donating their time, money, all the charities that have benefited from the browncoats.
Joss is a big promoter of charity.
Well, I'm really against it. I don't see why we should benefit others. That money could be spent on big cars, more drugs. There's a lot of things that could be done with that money, but they went with charity, that's important. They're better people than I am, which is a little annoying, but the fact of the matter is that's always been a side of who these fans are, that their first instinct would be to raise enough money to do what they needed and then do something right with the rest of it.
The San Francisco Browncoats had a fundraiser, and they had a lot of amazing prizes that were donated, like actual things from the show, actual props and a costume and stuff. And so I contributed to that a little, and they ended up raising an obscene amount of money, a wonderful amount of money for Quality Now, which is Joss Whedon's main charity.
After the Comic-Con, Ray called me to tell me how much that they had raised for us, and it was over $12,000, which was astounding.
I think that a lot of the fans are the type who want to do something and show that it's not just about a TV show. It's about people, and people help other people whenever you can.
I'm not saying that's something Mal would have done, but it is something that I think shows enormous character, and I like to think is something that we help build together, that the unity that they get from the show and from each other, brings out the best in them, which, as you can see, is pretty extraordinary.
With no new episodes of Firefly being aired and an uncertain future, fans turned to themselves to fill the gap. They held shindigs, joined message boards. I've read a few myself, donated to charities, and shared their passion about Firefly with each other. They created music, art, podcasts, spoofs, live journals, and fan fiction. Some of that stuff's pretty creepy. But most importantly, they continued to spread the word of the show through guerrilla marketing and by purchasing hundreds of thousands of DVDs.
When it came out on DVD, that was as soon as I saw it in the store, without a doubt, that was the first thing I grabbed.
I didn't even think about it or hesitate. I didn't think about any kind of money that I owed, bills or anything. I knew I was going to watch Firefly.
I went immediately out and got the box set and binge watched it.
That Christmas, everybody, I could imagine, got those from me. Spent a lot of money that Christmas.
If the time arises and I happen to need to have a disc set, I say, here, you need to see this.
It's pretty much the only Christmas present we gave last year. We gave everybody we knew Firefly disc sets.
Firefly, yeah.
At this point, I think I've purchased probably 70 or 80 box sets of Firefly. Some of them I've sold to people at cost, but a lot of them I've just given away.
So I had never heard of Firefly, but my son gave it to me for Christmas, right after, the first Christmas after it came out, and said, you've got to watch this, it's the greatest series ever. I don't know why I resisted this, but when he came the next Christmas, it was still there in shrink wrap on our shelves. I had not looked at it. And he treated me as if I had killed a baby or something, you didn't watch it?
The day we found out the DVDs were being released, we ran right out and reserved multiple copies.
I've destroyed 3 sets of DVDs, lending them out.
Pre-sales were like #1 on Amazon, #1 at Suncoast, #1 everywhere. The pre-sales out, they never thought they would have that big a volume for something that had only been on the air for 10 episodes.
We got the DVD and just fell in love all over again.
It worked. I mean, the minute people get their hands on those and start watching the show, they finally get what they missed. I've had people who were making fun of the show, they'd never really seen it, and just, I'm never going to watch that show. Bought them the DVDs. By the end of the DVDs, they were angry at me because I bought it, and there were no more to watch.
I watched all the episodes, and I left one. Like, I didn't watch the last one for the longest time because I felt like, if there's one left, there's always Firefly is going to be there. Like, it's never going to end.
I was in love. I could not believe that I had wasted a year in which I could have known about Firefly and been watching it. It is the greatest science fiction television series ever created. In fact, in some ways, it's the first good television series of science fiction.
I got hold of one of those, those famous roving DVD sets that go out of your house and never come back, and so I think we ended up with 4 or 5 of those sets.
Did you ever return those?
No. Give me a break. I passed them on to somebody else and bought another one.
I keep 2 disc sets, one that I've had the cast members sign, and one that I pass out to somebody.
Everybody was trying to do whatever they possibly could, getting the word out everywhere, to try to do something to keep this going. And then when the DVDs, it was like, okay, tell everybody you know, tell everybody you don't know, do something, whatever it takes to get people to go and buy these DVDs.
So yeah, we've done some good converting. That's what brown coats do.
Any one of my friends who I thought might like it, I've been saying, you have to put it in your Netflix queue, put it in your Netflix queue.
But of course I also hand sell this, well, not hand sell, I hand give it away. I force people to watch it. I do what my son did, and I'm appalled when they don't instantly respond the way that he was appalled when I hadn't watched it. But just a couple of weeks ago at the beach, my brother and his family became hooked on the series. Earlier than that, we gave it to some good friends in Greensboro, and they watched the whole thing straight through.
It sells itself, it's so easy.
Yeah, it just showed me the DVD, and oh my God, this is great. Cowboys in space. Yeah.
And so a friend of mine, I was preaching to him all this summer, and we went on a trip together, and the whole trip I was like, you would love it, it's great, it's in space, and it's this Western, and the characters, and you think it's great. And finally, I got it, Jeff and I both, we got an email from him one day out of the blue, and it said, I just watched the first DVD, and I've moved all the others up on my queue to the top. And then the next email was, I'm finished, and Fox is crazy that they canceled that show.
Once you get them started, that's what folks say. I joke with the people when they get them interested is that, okay, just make sure to watch, if you're willing to commit at least the first 4 episodes, 4 or 5, a couple hours of your life, and see if it's something you like. But don't try to give up on 1 or 2, just like anything, and boom, they're hooked. No one that's at least listened or watched that first DVD worth has come back and said, no, I didn't like it, Jeff. They've been, it's hard getting them maybe into that, but once they've got it, cha-ching, it's a done deal.
Just another rallying point. More guerrilla marketing began, and everybody's doing whatever they could to just keep it going.
I remember when the guerrilla marketing started, when Fox hired some online company to do the guerrilla marketing, and they had a banner contest, and 11th obviously won. No, there was no doubt she was going to. And I was like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to see if it's going to be on Yahoo's homepage or whatever, and they said, "Here it is. Now put this on your your obscure little web pages." And I was so pissed. And I remember I started a thread and I said, "Guerrilla marketing. I'll show you guerrilla marketing." And then that's when 11th just took over the guerrilla marketing campaign and started bringing out the posters, and everybody started doing anything and everything they could.
There's one person, she owns a restaurant, so what she does is she, I think, stamps Serenity on all of her $1 bills.
And as soon as I completed the DVD set, I just immediately became a missionary for this show. And I was going around trying to find people that haven't watched it before, people that I work with, people that I go to church with, people that I just know on, in passing or whatever, and say, hey, you need to see this show.
Yeah, we do silly things like going into stores and looking to make sure Firefly is prominently displayed on the shelf, and if it's not, well, where's Firefly? Do you carry Firefly? Well, okay, thanks. And then make sure to move it so it's right in front and everyone can see it.
I made a little sign that said something about Firefly rocks. Don't take my word for it. Talk to the fans. I had little tear-offs with FireflyFans.net and the OBs things on. And I live in the middle of nowhere where that Walmart's about it as far as buying DVDs. And I went in, I had it already taped, and I kind of, you see the cameras up all over, and I just kind of walked by and taped the little tear-off sheet. It was prettier than the Walmart special price things. And I'd go back and check on it for the first few days. After about the third day, I saw that it had gotten torn up, a card had touched it, was on the ground. I didn't have any tape with me, and I walked over to this, young kid working the entertainment counter, and I said, "Miss, your Firefly sign has fallen off the display. You might want to take that back up." And watch the Walmart employee put it back up. And I love guerrilla marketing.
So I have a sense that browncoats are sort of like Star Trek fans were back in the old days before they started making Star Trek movies. There really isn't a whole lot out there to sustain them, so they kind of have to invent it themselves with the fan fiction and the artwork. I'm amazingly impressed by some of the fan artwork that I see.
I was watching Our Mrs. Reynolds, and the dance music from the wedding got stuck in my head, and it just kept going over and over in my head. And I said, okay, darn it. So I got out the DVD, I learned it. Went up to a Renaissance festival that weekend and ran into some friends, and they said, hey, let's jam. And I said, oh, I have this new tune. Played it for them. They said, wow, that's beautiful. Where'd that come from? And I said, there's this show. And sure enough, they've become browncoats.
If there's a great story, I love to put that into art. I've always loved movie posters growing up, and anything I ever saw that I liked, I wanted to express that in a way. It should be storytelling, not just showing the people in it. And I was telling her, I want to do something for this show.
I wrote the novelization of Serenity for Pocket Books, and I also wrote an essay in the book Finding Serenity, which was a collection of essays about Firefly published by Ben Bella Books.
And the fan fiction thing is, it gives me a creative outlet that I wouldn't get otherwise, and it lets me answer the what-if questions and do fun things with it.
It's really fantastic that all around the country, we travel around and do Renaissance festivals. And all around the country, we've run into browncoats.
Various wives and girlfriends started saying, yeah, well, why are you spending all your time in the basement doing these useless things?
You're playing cards.
How about do something like, I don't know, pick up some instruments, play some music together, or something useful with your lives, And so we started, and then they regretted that because
that's what happened.
That's what happened.
That's
it is.
exactly
We're not lying. That's what
happened.
We know that a couple other game companies were bidding for the rights. In fact, we heard sort of through the grapevine that actually some of them even offered better money. And when we were told, basically, we were given the opportunity to kind of match what some of these other companies were able to do. And we said we can't. They were a new startup company. We're small, so we kind of thought that was it. But ultimately, it turned out we were chosen, despite not even having the best financial offer, because of the people involved. And we heard that Joss actually chose us.
Joss and the cast were signing different stuff, and a few people had brought the print over of what I did for him to sign, and for the rest of the cast to sign. He said, "Did you do this?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "This is the best compliment I ever got on my show. Thank you."
The Signal is a podcast that's completely devoted to Firefly and Serenity, and we started it up pretty much as a guerrilla marketing effort for the upcoming movie.
And because we love this so much, we just really put our heart and soul into this project, and
And everybody, in fact, who worked on it. 11th Hour, who did the graphic design. She and Jamie stayed up literally 48 hours straight trying to get the approvals through, or doing the work that we could get it to Universal to get it approved.
The way I express myself is through the art. And I wanted to create something that had the entire cast and also included the writing.
That's the great thing about the role-playing game as far as I'm concerned, because it's telling a story. Storytelling is something that relates to everybody. Story is the universal language.
You get these little ideas in your head, well, what would happen if, for instance, Kaylee brought a kitten aboard the Serenity and everybody tried to hide it from Mal because he has a no pets policy, and it proceeds to make Jane's life miserable. And then in the end, he warms up to it because it kills a rat twice its size, and he can respect that.
One of the things that a novel can do that a movie can't, and one of the things that I think is very important to do in novelization, is get inside the thoughts of the characters. Each scene is very hard filtered through one particular person's perceptions.
Serenity speaks to all of that, I think, in us, and does so in fresh new ways.
I went to a friend's house and I watched 2 episodes, and I loved it so much that he bought the series for me. So, and since then we watched it and we really loved the coat, so we wanted to make it.
I'm not really an autograph collecting kind of fan. I'm the kind of fan that wants to actually make something concrete to show, like, look, I'm a fan. Here's my proof. Look at this.
In late 2003, rumors started to kind of spread on the internet that we might get a movie out of this thing, and I wanted to make sure that would happen. So the best way I could think of doing it was to create a website to kind of help spread the word, do guerrilla marketing, give techniques, and just generally kind of pimp the show. So I created FireflyMovie.com.
For Abishad, we do recreations of movie clothing, and so what drives a product for us is the demand by the customers. So we've had so many requests for a brown coat that we just had to make it. We knew that it was going to be a popular product, and we can't keep up with the orders. Everybody wants one.
I've made a short film called Mosquito, behind the scenes preview. It's a Firefly parody, taking a comical look at a new science fiction western that's doomed to failure.
And I thought, Joss, the man they call Joss. I thought, oh, somebody's written that already, I'm sure. Come on, that's way too obvious. But no, nobody had. So I spent that drive working up lyrics.
I wrote this Firefly folk song just because I love the characters so much. I wanted to write a song to say something about that.
And before I knew it, I had written several more, and I just couldn't stop. It was a strange thing, but I'm happy it happened.
We all got a hold of the Serenity theme. Logan loved that, and he started playing that on the guitar. So
learned the chords off the internet.
Yeah,
download them on the internet.
Take my land, take me where I cannot stand. I don't care, I'm still free.
You can't take the sky from me.
Take me out through the black. Tell them I ain't coming back.
Burn the land, boil the sea. You can't take the sky from me. I can be as I found serenity. You can't take the sky from me.
I wrote that song, the theme song, before I wrote the pilot. After I sold the show, the day I sold the show, I went home and wrote that song. And it was supposed to be a kind of little bluesy, folk song that was written after the Battle of Serenity. And Take Me Into the Black could mean that I've died, or it could mean that I've gone into space. It just, everything that I was sort of trying to evoke emotionally for what I was going to put Mal through was in that song, and it helped center me and sort of get me started on the screenplay.
Sky
brown coat community, it's a family. And what I like to tell people about shindigs who haven't gone, a shindig is a family reunion of people you haven't met yet. So get yourself to a shindig is what I always say.
Shindigs are really just an excuse for fans to get together. Maybe we'll meet at someone's house and cook fajitas and watch some episodes, or we'll meet at a library and talk, or a bookstore, or whatever. It's just an excuse for fans to get together and talk about what we love.
You go to screenings, you go to events, you go to Comic-Con, and you immediately have friends. It's automatic friendship.
Actually, the first time that I went to a shindig was when you invited me. Jeremy invited you.
Jeremy's house.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was a little bit nervous, actually. I'd never met people online before.
And I remember telling someone, I'm going over here and I'll meet these people from the internet, okay? So, just in case.
I'm like, you know what? I'm going. And my husband's like, you're going to get killed with an axe.
But when we actually got there, it was pretty fun because the fans were way cool just to hang out with them and BS with them. And the fajitas that we ate were good.
Dude, the fajitas were way good.
And like 3 people stood up and they're like, Beanie's here! And I got all these huge hugs from people I had never seen face to face before, but talk with all the time on the OB.
Being with these people that got it, that felt exactly the same way, and they were, browncoats really are all kind, smart, generous people.
And there's so much passion amongst the Firefly fans that you kind of just get sucked into it.
Passion is what makes life worth living. And when you have a strong passion for something, and you meet someone else who has an equally strong passion about something, you can't help but share that passion. And it's a very exciting thing when it happens.
You see right-wingers, you see left-wingers, you see old, you see young. There is no stereotype in this group. I think it's one of the broadest fan bases I've ever seen.
We go to shindigs. I'm part of the SF Browncoats and the Silicon Gulch Browncoats. We have monthly meetings, and it's pretty much just an instant friendship with everybody. It's a lot more mature of a fan base.
And I think the reason for that is because the crew, the characters, are a chosen family. They're not related, but they've chosen to be together.
The people who are attracted to this have so much dedication to making it grow and be around for as long as it can be.
You don't just go out and do something like this for fun, for free, and donate all of your time, and do it because it's just something to do. You do it because it's something you believe in.
So for nearly 2 years, the fans, the actors, and Joss Whedon continued to fight for their show. They simply wouldn't let it die. And to the surprise of nearly everyone in Hollywood, their efforts paid off. In early 2004, Universal Studios officially announced Serenity, also known as the Big Damn Movie.
When I first told them that the movie was a go, they were angry. Oh, again, I'm getting that wrong. What's that word? They're happy. I'd been keeping them abreast of the whole process, so it wasn't like I suddenly dropped back out of the blue a year later and said, we got a movie. They need I can't keep my mouth shut. Everything, I talked to, I don't know, maybe. I'll call you in a couple of weeks, and also because I wanted to keep track of them, so I didn't go, we've got the film, and Nathan would be like, I'm in Gdansk. I'm doing a series for the next 9 years, but good luck with it. Boom. So, we kept tabs on each other.
I'm not quite sure why Joss went to Universal as opposed to, Paramount or someone like that. Except I do know that there was an executive, Mary Parent, who was very supportive of Joss.
The thing we had in our back pocket that was great was Mary Parent, who was co-head of Universal Studios, really wanted to be in business with Joss and had made that known over the last, a couple of years leading up to the cancellation. And when she heard about the show getting canceled and she called Joss up and said, hey man, I want to do something with you, what do you want to do? He said, Firefly, I want to keep telling the story. And to her credit, she said, okay, go write a script.
The script worked great, and if you'd never heard of, it had to, and that was sort of the thing that Joss and I talked a lot about before he wrote the script, which was you've got to create a story, you've got to create a movie that if you've never heard of Firefly before, that you can go in and have a great movie-going experience. And at the same time, you have to remain, loyal to the fans and true to the underlying, genesis of the material. But That was a big part. It was being able to make it for the right budget and to be able to show the DVD sales and just a sense of, the online fan sites, that there was a significant amount of people out there, that those people combined with what the movie would be on its own would hopefully on a worldwide basis, recoup its money.
I never believed that Joss wasn't going to get a movie made. So when the call came, I just felt, okay, this is a natural progression. Congratulations, that's great. When do we start?
Something I've been waiting for, something that all the fans deserve.
Props to Universal, yeah, because those guys know a good show.
I stood up from my computer screen and I did a Snoopy dance and my kids were like, Mom's gone nuts.
So I was just thrilled to have my friends back in my life. That's what it felt like anyway.
It's a movie for the fans, and I heard the DVD sales kind of helped push it along, so in a way it's a movie by the fans.
Hats off to the fans. They're the reason that this still exists.
On a lot of levels, the fans' involvement has helped because, first of all, Universal has a bottom line, and the fact that the DVD sales were huge, that they would come and see these booths and be like, they're advertising a movie we haven't made yet, excited them very much and gave them confidence in something that isn't a normal, major release.
It all actually emanated from our first test screening, which was supposed to be completely unbiased and only populated with fans to the extent that, random selection would have some fans. And we showed up at the theater, and I knew we were in trouble when I had a couple people say to me on the way in, "Hey, Chris, how's it going?"
It was actually a great way to screen the movie the first time. It was probably 75% fans, and people went insane, which was great for everybody to get a sense. Like, they knew, but they really got immersed in what the Joss fan world was. And I mean, people were crying, they were moved by the film, and it was really effective. It actually couldn't have worked out better.
When we went to the very first test screening, it was it was the very first one, and there were big gaps with, where there were still no effects and things like that. So it was you're not going to get the full effect, but it was still extremely powerful and extremely moving, and you saw how great it was going to be.
I think the thing that is so really outstanding about these Firefly Serenity fans is the incredible inspiration and power that they have given to us.
It's really set a standard and a bar for
it's just set the bar
what
really
I
high,
expect from a work experience.
These actors just brought people to them. Like, you can't watch them and not be involved in what they're going through. They're just too fascinating.
Working on the series was one of the most enjoyable, if not the most enjoyable experience, because that cast were the nicest group of people, and Nathan in particular is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in your life.
Nathan? Well, Nathan's difficult. I've seen him slap little girls.
Nathan Fillion is the hardest individual in the world to work with.
Honest to God, she fell to the ground. Blood. I almost fainted. It was awful. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
This is a secret between us that I actually like Nathan Fillion. He's not actually the bastard that I always say that he is. He's actually a guy who's a dear friend of mine who I love. But let's keep that just between us.
Nathan's great.
The fact that the cast would have parties and invite the crew, which is really, usually the cast is in their own world, and they invited the crew.
Nathan, he was just so nice because he was like, "Do you want a picture?" He took my camera and was taking pictures for us.
And I saw Nathan Fillion walking by, and so like I knew anything. I yelled over, I said, "Nathan, come on over here for just a second." And he just came over.
He was so nice.
He was so nice. Came over, and I said, "Can we get a picture?" I did this because I knew that my wife was over here just blushing, and her heart was just palpitating. Oh yes, you were definitely fangirl. Let's not get. It's true. And so he came over, and he was so kind to us, so good to us, and we had a picture taken with him. And it was your standard, give your camera to somebody and they take the picture, and it's not very good because they stand in Philadelphia to do it. And so we had this picture taken, and they brought the camera. Nathan said, come here. He took the camera away from them and put his arm around Laura and pulled us. He says, "All right, everybody in here tight." We all pulled in tight, really tight. Yeah. And he held the camera out here and took the picture for us. And so we have this wonderful picture of the three of us. It's a great picture. The guy took a fabulous picture. And so we have this great picture of the three of us with our heads all together. And it was just a great moment.
Every day was so wonderful to go to work on the show. I mean, it's the costume designer's dream.
Love all the characters, love his style, love his writing. I just became a huge fan. Even though I was working on it, it was fun to be on the show and a fan of the project. That was a nice treat for me.
Everyone who worked on that show cared desperately about that show. It was not just a bunch of people who said, oh, this is a job and I care about my job, but it's just another TV show. People were invested emotionally in this show, as was I. The show was a huge deal to me. I cared desperately about this show, and I would jump through any hoop to keep it alive.
I'd have to say some of my favorite scenes. I really loved doing my last scene in Our Mrs. Reynolds, where he comes and finds me on the snowy planet, and we have the battle scene in the cabin. One, because it was sexy, and two, because I got to do a little ass-kicking, ass-being-kicked stuff, which was really, really fun.
Don't we have great jobs? We have great jobs. This is what we do every day.
And being kind of a Firefly fan myself, it was like, oh boy, I'm getting to tinker with the, the real thing now. Oh, and the Alliance logo too. Oh, and by far the most important, the Serenity logo. That's my work. And if you've seen the film, and by now I'm sure you have, there's a wonderful moment where it just like fills the screen and shimmers. It's like, look at me, I'm your logo. And then you see it on the front of Serenity. So that to me, that's about the most exciting. It's almost as good as getting like a credit above the title of the film, seeing the Serenity logo like that. I'm still tingling. Ooh.
My involvement in Serenity was that Joss would give me drafts of the script. It was sort of like back to the pilot. So he would give me drafts of the script, and mostly because he wanted me to praise him. I don't think he really wanted to hear any criticism, but that's just him. He's crazy.
And we're watching dailies, and Joss was sitting next to Lisa Lassick, our editor, and I'm sitting behind him, and he goes, "We do this for a living. How cool is our job? This is so great." And I just had the biggest grin on my face. I'm like, I know.
I was sad that Firefly was only on for a season because I was a fan of it, but was excited to see that there was now a movie that had evolved from it. So I wanted to be a part of it, and then eventually found my way to becoming an extra for it, which was great.
Chris Buchanan kind of opened the door for the fans to become extras on the show, but he didn't make it too easy. You had to do a little research to find out how best to go about it.
Because I was one of the first brown coats to be able to be an extra, and because I wanted to share that with as many people as I could, I documented it on a fan site every step of the way.
Once I figured out the agency you needed to talk to become an extra, I called them and said, I'd like to be an extra on Serenity. And they said, oh, great, are you from California? And I'm like, yeah. And they said, great, well, can you come in a couple days for a fitting? I'm like, sure. I'm from Utah. So I flew down to California for a fitting, and then had to fly back a week later for the actual filming. And I got paid $70 for the whole experience.
With all my fears and sorrows close, I'm hanging on, just hanging on. I wish that you were here with me to sail the sky Serenity and take me high or take me low through to the end where I may go. If I can stand, then I shall pass as beyond this night of black, as beyond this night of black, and take me high or take me low through to the end where I may go. If I can stand, then I shall pass as beyond this night of black, as beyond this night of black.
A wonderful working experience becomes a wonderful fan experience, because you're working as a fan in a place that you're a fan of, doing things that other people like you are going to appreciate and understand and talk about and write about and make documentaries about. It's awesome.
I compare every other job now to Firefly and Serenity. I'm like, it was so fun, I had such a great time, but it wasn't Firefly, you know?
Everybody involved in this show has been so great and so talented and very supportive.
And it was just, and watching Joss work was fabulous. Just seeing how he has it in his brain, how exactly the shot is supposed to go. No, you have to go like this.
How's our working relationship? It's, he pretty much can say, I want you to do a battle thing with it's really about Serenity going through the battle. I mean, the battle's there and it's huge and it's awesome. It's totally awesome. It's the biggest thing you've ever seen. But it's really about Serenity going through it. So Serenity goes through it, and then at the end, Serenity kind of gets trapped, has to go back in, and Wash has to do some tricks, make him look like a really good flyer, and then he has to get through. Really big battle, but it's really about Serenity getting through. And he can say that, and I can say, okay.
I like telling the stories. I loved telling those stories. I loved my character. I loved getting the dialogue, the dry jokes. I love it. I want to be as funny as Malcolm Reynolds, or at least as funny as Alan Tudyk.
Right.
And Firefly was my only way in to either of those.
I mean, Joss is all about the moments.
It doesn't talk down to you as a television show.
It pulls you in. That first battle scene where they're there and they're fighting and they're trying their hardest, and you just feel like that sometimes, you just feel like you're trying your hardest and there's nothing you can do.
The last episode, I believe, Objects in Space, was just incredibly compelling, and so I've watched that since 4 times. I just couldn't mail the DVD back to Netflix.
Each person on the ship has a reason for being there, and everybody can find somebody that they can identify with.
I think I'd have to most identify with Wash, just because it's just so familiar to me, just seeing him behind that wheel. I'd be in a wheelchair, and I drive a wheelchair-equipped van, and I look a lot like that with my steering thing. And I tend to wear Hawaiian shirts from time to time, so yeah, Wash and I were like that.
And I'm an actual aircraft mechanic, and so I really relate with Kaylee.
I would have to say my favorite character would definitely be Summer's character.
I identify with Zoe, I would say, not because I was in a war or that I kick ass or anything, but she's been through a lot, and she, it shows, because she's kind of hard on the outside and kicks ass, but she also has that side that Wash brings out in her. I guess I would say I identify with Zoe and Wash together.
Firefly is what brought us together, and thank you, Joss. I love you so much.
I met my boyfriend through Firefly. Also, he was friends with Lindsay, and we've been together for a year now. So this is our anniversary when we met and stuff, so it brought us together, and I think he's going to be the one. So
for me, I love to watch any of Joss's shows with my kids because there are always consequences.
When he's returning the medicine and the sheriff, thinks that, then a man has a choice, and the captain says, I don't believe he does. And it's like, oh, how sweet, he doesn't have a choice, how cool. And then the next moment when he's talking to Crow and explaining the situation to him, and Crow's like, keep your money. And then he goes, darn, and he kicks him into the engine. And it was like...
And you have such strong female characters, which is huge because I have a daughter. And even for my son, I want him to see these strong female characters that, so he is only 6 years old, but he has it firmly in his mind that if he steps out of line with a woman, she's going to kick his ass.
The thing that I really enjoyed about it is it takes such a gritty, organic look at space colonization.
Yeah.
When they move the cattle, in the cargo hold, and they have to go back and clean up the mess. I mean, that's just really gritty. They did a great job, with the meal packets and the nutritional supplements, and they really fleshed out this universe with some reality, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that humanness sort of makes it easier to connect to, and it makes it more fun to watch them doing the mundane stuff. Just, the scenes playing cards and just sort of the banter in the kitchen or on the bridge.
You really bond, and so, as sort of we were saying outside, that the cancellation is sort of our battle of Serenity. And the movie
really brought us together.
Yeah, and the movie Serenity is like the ship Serenity, and so that's why we're all on board it. We're ready to get on and try and keep flying because that's what we do.
That's what we do.
Although mixed feelings for me, because once I take them to the big screen, I don't really see them back on the little screen, and I really wanted to see him again on the TV show.
More so than any actor or character in any of these shows or movies, Joss is the big star. That's the one, he's the guy that everybody wants to meet. And he's just incredibly bright guy.
I just think the writing is really, really intelligent. And I think the girls are hot on the show.
And we have to say, despite all the cool family character stuff that made Firefly really good, the hot babes didn't hurt anything.
Right.
Yeah.
The whole thing between Inara and Mal, it was what was not said. They weren't saying what they were thinking. They were saying other than.
Well, and the romance of being a man with a horse and a gun, and with this, it's a spaceship. It's just incredible because you can go anywhere and still put your duster on and get on a horse when you get there. I love it.
It's the stuff you really want to see.
And so when Wash died, I just rejected it. I just shut down. I couldn't even process the rest of the movie because, the movie died right in that moment.
When Wash is taken from us, it's after everybody said we are willing to lay down our lives. And if people say we're willing to lay down our lives and nobody lays down their life, it means nothing. And when Alan is taken from us, it's bam, like that, and there's no time to kind of moan and have a ceremony and have it like a last word or anything. It's immediate.
When the film was over, I was extremely upset. I was so shocked because I was so excited that we had gotten our film and here it was. And then Joss goes off and kills one of the characters. And I'm like, what's the point of giving us the film if you're going to kill off the characters?
Whenever we would watch it in theaters, I'd always reach down like I'm getting my popcorn and I'd look over my shoulder to see the reaction. And people would and freeze in disbelief, and things continue, and things are going like bullets. It keeps rolling and rolling. The film's going. It's not waiting for you to have your moment to go, oh my God, I think he's dead. They're completely taken aback, and it's an audible gasp.
After they've left Serenity, when it crashes, and Wash has... I can't say it!
After Wash has been impaled.
Okay.
I like how I die. I like how quick it is. And I guess I'm in denial that I'm out of it,
And I'm in denial that we've been robbed. Two wonderful characters.
When Joss says, I need this death because it makes the stakes real in the movie, I believe, you trust him that he knows what he's talking about. And then in the movie, it works like that. He's right. So when I watch it, it's sad, but he's right. It was great. And it really served a purpose for the movie.
And I actually wrote Alan Tudyk a letter. It was just more for me just to get it all out and cathartic experience. And I remember one part of it just talking about how I felt attacked. I felt like I was attacked by a reaver, that it ripped my heart out, stomped on it, spit on it. I was reaverized. And then in that moment, I'm like, so that's what Joss wanted to do. And it just clicked that, okay, it was on purpose, so okay.
At the end of the movie, I said, you know what? I'm going to go find Joss and I'm going to slap him, And then later on, I actually got to meet him in the VIP thing. And I said, I told somebody that, I'm going to go find him and I'm going to slap him. And he was like, he just looked at me. But I was like, I'm only kidding. But how could you do that?
I like that I don't go on without me. Mm-hmm. And look, I've got 3 bullets left, but I'll give them hell. I don't have like a hold them off as long as I can moment. It's none of that. It's, that's
so long, bastards.
See you in hell. Yeah.
We are the underdog.
Right.
Yes. I love that.
Wouldn't it
I love
be
that.
an amazing story if, we're a canceled television show, everybody thinks we're gone, all of a sudden this fan base just keeps growing and growing and growing, and then we make a movie, and then we're a huge movie, and we make sequel after sequel, and it just grows into something, but it maintains, what it's about and its standard, and which I'm sure it would. That would be amazing. What a great story to be able to tell.
We have a canceled show becomes a major motion picture. It's never happened before.
I think the thing that really draws these particular kinds of fans to this particular material is fundamentally it's Joss.
Like the amount that people have done for this movie, whose only benefit is to be a part of it, is extremely moving. And because I don't operate in a vacuum. Okay, I write alone, but apart from that, I get so much. I feed off of them. Hopefully, they feed off of the world, and then it just it becomes something like art greater than the sum of its parts, so that somebody feels like when they're doing something, they're not just standing behind a booth or working a website or handing out a flyer, whatever it is they're doing, or going to see a screening, they're entering a world, and I'm just privileged to be there too.
I'm gonna see Serenity.
I've gotten, at this point, to see it 7 times.
So that it makes lots of money. They're bringing Firefly back to me with Mal and Book and Yay Kaylee. I'm gonna see Serenity. I'm gonna cheer when Mal says, I know this much, I aim to misbehave. His pants are tight, his manner wry. At Inara he makes calf eyes. I'm gonna cheer when Mal says, and River, oh I love River. I wish River were my sister. I'd fix her brain and keep her safe. Like Simon says, she's my meme. And River, oh, I love River. I'm gonna see Serenity. Yeah, it rocks. 3 times so that it makes lots of money.
Alas, my pants are not that tight. Or something.
Now they'll take our ticket stubs. I'm gonna see Serenity.
It's a chain I go get and beat you with it till you know who's in command. You can't change that by getting all bendy and lights on the console like a little angel.
We shall rule over all this land, and we shall call it this land. I think we should call it your grave. Ah, curse your sudden inevitable betrayal. Ha ha! Mine is an evil laugh. Now die! Rah! Oh no, God! Rah! Oh dear
God! I'm gonna hang with Jane and Wash, with Zoe and hell, best of all with Joss. They couldn't take the sky from them. Our big damn heroes made a film. I'm gonna see Serenity. They couldn't take the sky from them. Our big damn heroes made a film. They couldn't take the sky from them. Our big damn heroes made a film. They couldn't take the sky from them. Our big damn heroes made a film. They couldn't take the sky from them.
We didn't have my babies.
If you're not a fan already, yeah, you're gonna be a fanatic after this. So go see the movie. It totally rocks. You guys rock. Joss Whedon rocks. And I'm gonna learn to breathe now.
Firefly and Serenity may have been mere entertainment to some people, but for us, it has become so much more. We've all become part of Serenity's onboard family. This documentary is dedicated to the browncoats around the world whose lives have become interconnected and enriched by Joss Whedon and the cast and crew of Firefly and Serenity. We've done it. We've done the impossible. And that makes us all mighty.
Trilogy, oh trilogy, I want my trilogy. Don't stop at 1, don't stop at 2. Goramic, give me 3. Trilogy, oh trilogy, that's what I want to see. Someday I'll own a box set of that big damn trilogy. They said we couldn't do it. They said our show should die. They took our love, they took our land, they canceled our Firefly. One thing they didn't reckon in our fan psychology is browncoats carry greenbacks and we want our trilogy. Trilogy, oh trilogy, I want my trilogy. Don't stop at 1, don't stop at 2, go ram it, give me 3. Trilogy of trilogy, that's what I want to see. Someday I'll own a box set of that big damn trilogy. Trilogy, oh trilogy, I want my trilogy. Don't stop at 1, don't stop at 2, go ram it, give me 3. Trilogy, oh trilogy, that's what I want to see. Someday I'll own a box set of that big damn trilogy. They say the best things in this verse always come in threes. Musketeers and Stooges, LOTR DVDs. When a show's got ships and shepherds, the Alliance and Blue Sun, and Gina and Jewel and Morena and Summer. It's too pretty to stop at 1. Trilogy, oh trilogy, I want my trilogy. Don't stop at 1, don't stop at 2, go ram it, give me 3. Trilogy, oh trilogy, that's what I want to see. Someday I'll own a box set of that big damn trilogy. Someday I'll own a box set of that big damn trilogy.
Call for the story of our big damn heroes, but we needed to know what happens after Jubal early. We couldn't let them fall, so we banded together, and no power in the verse can stop us now. Brown coats have done the impossible. Welcome to Serenity. Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot stand. I don't care, I'm still free. You can't take the sky from me. Land and boil the sea. You can't take the sky from me. Got no place I can be since I found serenity. But you can't take the sky from me.